All right, here we are. Let's get Cal in here. Where's Cal? Come on in, Cal. You can probably just turn on your video there.
Okay.
There he is, the man.
I can't see it yet.
Maybe I got it. Welcome, folks. Where's Cal in here? Do I have to give you permission or something to get in there? Do you click that bottom on the right side, the bottom on the left, Cal?
Yeah,
Like,
it's just saying it's blocked.
okay. What's going on? Why can't I let Cal in here? What the hell's going on? No. Excuse me, folks, while we work out some technical difficulties here. Put in the waiting room, allow to record. Well, I'm sure if I make you host, you'll be able to. How about that, Cal? The power is yours.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Can you click it now? Your video? Boom.
Yes, I can. There you
There
go.
we go. There we go. So, yeah, here we are, man. I wanted to. I was driving home today. I've been in Kelowna the last couple days, and I was listening to that track on the drive home, and that song's called "Getting to the Bottom of It." And I felt how fucking suiting for what we're going to talk about tonight, because I've always felt when I've known you, you and I go over 10 years. I think 11 years we go back, 2014. And I've always
Something.
felt like all the time that I've spent with you has been about getting to the bottom of it.
Well, the way I look at it, if you're not dealing in truth, and I don't mean it in some esoteric way, but if you're not dealing with the truth, then you're wasting your time. You're
Fucking
being
right.
deceived. You gotta you gotta do your best to get to the actual truth, no matter what that is or means. And even if it goes against your own cognitive bias, you gotta try and get there. And otherwise, you're ineffectual, really. You're being duped. You're a mark.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think what I'll do is I'm going to give everybody a little intro to Cal, and then Cal and I are we're gonna get to the bottom of this. We're gonna we're gonna get it all sorted tonight, Cal,
Oh
and
yeah.
uh, and that's gonna be it. So we got 214 people here on YouTube. You guys share the stream. I'm not all that good at multitasking. I had all these ambitions to multi-stream this, and fuck, I don't have time for that shit these days. So please like and share this stream, put it out wherever, get people in here. Me and Cal are going to get into some deep stuff, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. So Cal Washington is a bit of a legend in the space of looking at the law or the matrix for what it is. Empower movement is probably how most people know him. And I got to know Cal in 2014, at the beginnings of what Empower is now. Though I don't know if you called it that then, but
No.
in 2014, I was in Kelowna, and I was trying to get to the bottom of it with the Matrix and the commercial law. Got into all this stuff, been down the rabbit hole for so many years. But when I met Cal, and it was at a presentation that he did, this was before the days when the internet just took everything, right? Like before iPhones weren't all that common then. They were around, but they weren't like they are now. People did things like I always, the way I always got to the bottom of it with the law has always been to seek out guys like you and go right to the people doing stuff. And that's what we did in this evening in 2014. There was a couple different events, but we were taking action against the smart meter campaign that was being rolled out by Fortis. And obviously it was a public-private venture, as these cronies love to do. And Cal was basically did a presentation, might have been an hour or two, there was some Q&A, of basically laying out the commercial system, the merchant system, the matrix, the paper world. And my head exploded, and I was so excited, and it was such a cool event because there was 200 people there at least, and it was followed up by action. We're gonna take action tonight. We're doing your paperwork tonight. 200 people filled out notices of liability and put huge amounts of money on this document that was at least 20 pages thick. And we sent that registered mail all at once. We all went to the post office together, and that was a sight to be seen. The postal workers were just like fucking fluttering around. What is going on? What are these people doing? And we sent these letters to that CEO, and he resigned the next day. And did we stop the smart meters then? No, but it was the moment that I realized the power of paper, the power of the written word, the power of the notice of I see you, motherfucker. And if you're going to harm me, then there's going to be repercussions to you. So that, guys, was my introduction to Cal Washington. And we've been friends ever since. And I haven't spoken in a little while. We had a nice little catch up before the call. But Cal, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm honored to be here. You've been a warrior as well and done some mighty things in all the years. And yeah, it's I've always had the utmost respect for everything you've done. I mean, we had a mutual friend, Steve, and he was telling me about this guy. He was riding around on his bike and, planting gardens in people's yards. And, it was, just amazing how far you've come and everything you've accomplished.
Thanks, man. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot from you. Um, and yeah, I mean, our friend Steve, we were right into it back in those days. It was so exciting, understanding commerce. I mean, for me, I spent so many years with common law, Magna Carta, and even the name game and all that kind of shit. And then when I saw you execute commerce and equity in a way of getting to the root, that's what for me is a big part of what equity actually really is getting to the heart of the matter, settling the fucking matter. I don't care about the he said, she said. I want to get to the matter. And what's the matter in the matrix? It's the money
Money every time.
every
That's
fucking.
that's the only thing there is. A notary said it best, one of our first notaries, and he said, everything in court, everything is money. There is nothing else. And I thought about it for days. I went, you know what? That's a true statement. There is nothing going on in a BC court that isn't involving money.
Yeah.
Like the only reason why you would ever go in there and argue is because of money. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, somebody said my mic was low. So is
Oh yeah,
that better now?
that's better. Yeah.
You can hear me better now?
Yeah.
Good, good. Um, yeah, exactly. It is. And it's like the thing that was so valuable that you taught me, and you never really said this to me, but was my interpretation of everything that you taught me over the years, is that there's the world as it ought to be. Is it the way you like it to be, as in the way if you could wave your magic wand, and then there's the world that is. And we're not getting a lot of fucking remedy in the way the world ought to be.
No. Actually, there's another step in there. What I found was there was what I thought it was based on, what I learned at school and wave flags and watched
Yeah.
hockey and all that stuff, in particular around Canada. And then once I got, embroiled in this thing and I realized that's not what this is, because that has nothing to do with what I thought it was. So then I started researching what it should be, based on a bunch of acts and rights and all these things. And I went, that's not it either. And they don't seem to even care about any of that. And then I found out what it is, and then I started getting some success. Whether I liked it or not, like this is what you are, then I need to deal with you that way. And then they started to pay attention. And it
And
was a
wasn't
bunch.
that around the time where you had that judge who said to you, keep going?
Well, it was prior to that because I was asking the questions about, what is this? I would say, like, where am I that you just said that? Because I thought I was in Canada and that this was a court, a balanced court of justice. And she said, you're very sophisticated, Mr. Washington. Keep going. And I'm like, what kind of like what is I don't even know what that means.
Well, we're just throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks.
That's right. That's really what it was. But
It
she,
is.
but
Yeah.
obviously I was heading in the right path where I might get somewhere, and she knew it. So, um, yeah. But I thought about that for a while too. Like, what did she say there? Like, what am I doing that I'm just trying to fumble my way through in the dark? I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. So let's take a turn because I want to I want this stream I want to have done within the hour. So I want to be done by like 6:30 ish. But I want to get to the bottom of it. I want to get to the heart of it with the issue of the day. And the thing that's so crazy about this issue right now is this whole thing of the US and all this messaging that Trump's got, the US taking over Canada. The thing that is so like cryptic about it for guys like you and me is that we're at a precipice now where what you taught me 11 years ago is happening, at least in my theory, because of the constitutional problem that you told all of us about back in 2014, that because the charter was never ratified, because of article whatever it was that gets you in that endless loop of until Quebec allows English in their schools, there's no charter,
There's no
which
charter.
is so insane. But we're here now because Canada was never really a proper country. It's essentially the Hudson's Bay Company.
It is essentially the Hudson Bay Company, and whoever has is the holder of that document, the Hudson Bay Charter. It's called something else officially, but that gives you the right to run a corporation as if it was a government. You would not know the difference for all practical things because they're allowed to make their own laws and enforce them. They're allowed to have armed forces, artillery, navy, courts. Think about that. Walmart is allowed to have its own court,
Yeah.
and the courts could hear the subject matter to deal with the company, but they could also hear criminal and civil matters. So they were
Which is so
trained.
crazy because if Canada is a corporation like Walmart, which it is, to call the court is basically an oversight committee from a board of directors in a company,
Yeah,
right?
they're going to win it almost every time.
Of course, because you're an employee of that corporation. And so what do you have? You have no rights. It's like, do you want to be part of that corporation or not? I'm just turning my light down. And so here we are now where Trump is basically signaling that he's going to incorporate Canada into the United States corporation and whatever that means. So what's the 30,000 foot view for you on what's going on right now with this?
Well, I would say that the most direct thing is they're buying the charter. It's a corporation. If Walmart wants to sell out, like they sell, and then another new owner has it. Like that's business. It's just straight up.
It's so straight up. I mean, it is far like what I see in some of the consulting work that I do with people is I'll say, and this is nothing new or controversial. Any lawyer will tell you this is that if you're a rich person and you own lots of land, the best way to own that land is in a corporation, in a holding company. And then when you sell the land to save yourself title transfer tax, you just appoint new directors to the company and then they take the company and the land.
Well, this is what the Hudson Bay Company is. If you read the charter, they were granted land, and it was vast. It every any river that flowed into the Hudson Bay from its start, from the like where a river starts, any river flowing in there, that was their land. It went down into where the United States is now, and it covered pretty much almost all of eastern Canada, like Ontario, Quebecish, and down into southern Alberta, what is now southern Alberta. It was a massive amount of land. They had all the mineral rights. This is all in the charter.
Yeah.
They had they could run their forts. They could put cannons on their forts. It's all in there.
Hmm.
You can have munitions. So these forts had artillery. This is Walmart, dude. And they had
So,
it was a full on monopoly. So what happened was Victoria in the 1800s. So this ran for 200 years like that. And they had, and apparently they were pretty ruthless because they've got the power, they've got all the land. You had, if you wanted to put a canoe in the river, you had to buy a license, like on and on and on and on and on. And it was my way or the highway.
yeah,
So and it ran for 200 years. So Victoria formed the Dominion, taking there because there were some other provinces in the east um, that didn't weren't part of Rupert's land. So they formed the Dominion basically to compete with this thing, like put it out of business, if you like,
yeah,
force their hand. And read the preamble of the British North America Act. One of the main reasons was to acquire lands, but it doesn't say what lands. And one of the things that had was stipulated for this to happen is the railroad going in. They couldn't afford a railroad, but they had to put it in. So it bankrupted everybody. They got a railroad in so they could move goods faster than the Hudson Bay Company, and they forced the surrender basically of the Hudson Bay Charter the very next year, 1868. So it was like boom, boom, just follow the dots.
I know. And it's so I've never even anybody really give me a theory on why they think Queen Victoria put in the Statute Law Revision Act and removed herself from the Dominion from the British Crown from assuming the Dominion after her death. Have you ever had any ever thoughts on why she did that?
That's because you're missing part of that same repeal. People just, I think, either can't see it or it's partly disguised. But the very first item on the schedule, it says remove the words that start with um, "be it therefore" to "same as follows." And if you don't like that can go right by you. But
No
what it
shit.
is it's the enacting clause.
Yeah, right.
It's the words that give the whole document any force and effect. So she removed those. In other words, the B&A Act is gone.
Is gone
Yeah.
after she dies.
So it doesn't matter about really. I think what removing Section 2 did was make sure that no king or queen could ever revive it
Hmm.
because all the rights pertaining to the British North America Act would pass to her successors and heirs. Well, now it doesn't, which is why in 82 they took the very same document, British North America Act, all the same words in there, and changed the name.
It's so sneaky. And why they would do that is it's hard to understand. It's almost like you'd spend a lifetime trying to answer those questions. But it brings us to where we are today, though, in that, okay, if the Dominion is gone, all there is a company with a charter to do business. What, and you said earlier, and it might have gone over people's heads, is that maybe Trump's just gonna buy the charter because he can't really buy the land. How do you buy the land? Who gives it to you? Who sells it?
The land comes with the charter.
Land comes with the charter,
And
just like a
a lot of
corporation
people think,
having a
yeah,
land in a holding company.
I'm telling you, uh, it, a lot of people think the land didn't go with the charter, but if you read the Rupert's Land Act, which was the terms of the surrender, it says all purported lands, like words like purported in there, all the authority and or purported authority. Because I'll tell you what, by this time, by the mid to 1800s during Victoria's reign, Hudson Bay Company was way out of their boundaries. In other words, they were on this side of the Rockies. They had no business being over here.
Right.
That wasn't the deal. This was all native land and it still is, but they just came and just started opening up business. So
And
she took
so,
all that too. She took all the stuff that the way it's written, anything that you weren't supposed to have, I got that now too.
yeah. So where we are today then is there doesn't have to be any kind of vote from the people, because it's like if Walmart sold, let's say it's a Jim Walton, who's the CEO of Walmart today. I don't know who it is or what, doesn't matter. If it's Jim Walton today, he sells the company. He doesn't go to the employees and say, hey, do you guys want to say in this? He doesn't fucking care.
No,
The
or the
company gets
customers.
sold and they might not even know a new owner bought it because it wouldn't matter to them.
Exactly.
So is your opinion of if this goes down? Well, first of all, what do you think the likelihood of this going down is?
Very high. That I think that's like notice. And everybody got up in arms. And of course, you know, right away there's a hockey game, a hockey tournament that just
So
pops out
ridiculous.
of nowhere. And the first game, I didn't watch any of it, but from what I understand, the very first game between Canada and US, a fight breaks out within 3 seconds. Like,
Yeah,
come on, that's kabuki theater, man. That's like,
it is.
yeah, like 3 days ago, we were all in the NHL, and basically, get making our living, and all of a sudden now there's this thing, this tournament with only a few teams, and we got a fight within 3 seconds. Like, come on,
And so
man.
what do you think is the signaling coming in so hard because it's sort of a predictive programming thing and they're kind of trying to seed that division?
Yes.
But why would the division get them there? Because is that going to is it like sort of nudging an aggressor? Like, come on, you want to fight, right? Because then if
Yeah.
they want to make people want to fight, like what do you think's really going on there?
They always want us fighting, like no matter what move they make, they want us in some kind of turmoil. And even when they moved the Hudson Bay Company, when they formed the Dominion, and actually the Hudson Bay charter got surrendered, they didn't tell anybody. And there was a bunch of people who made their living based on the status quo, and now it's going to be different. Now we're all part of a dam. Why weren't we consulted? So there was actually an uprising called the Red River Uprising, because they're like, no, 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 you don't get to just take our land, because we had a deal with the Hudson Bay Company or whatever it was, right? So now that's all null and void, just like because Victoria said so.
Yeah.
So there was, even in that time, there was the people that didn't like it. There was people who didn't like the American Revolution. There was loyalists who went, no, this is treason. We're not doing this. And they
And
moved
so
it.
do you think we're going to see that kind of thing? Because the thing that I find so interesting about all this is that you and I and a handful of other people have been talking about this constitutional problem and this sort of lack of sovereignty that Canadians have had forever. It almost seems to me like it could go two ways, but the US thing is just more likely. But the way I'd like it to go, if I could sort of wave my magic wand and all of a sudden wake everybody up, it'd be like everybody would wake up to the constitutional problem in the first place and say, well, hey, fuck, you're telling me you can just sell me with like an asset? And then that would wake people up to say, well, what is this?
Exactly.
But
But
do
too
you
late by
really?
that. Too late by then.
Yeah, well, but I mean, just look at what happened during COVID. I mean, look at how people just toe the fucking line. And so, sure, I would love for everybody to understand this, but I just go, because that would be a perfect case scenario, is that people would clue in to be like, well, wait a second, if Trump can just buy us as a country, what does that say about the country? It says that it's
Not a,
nothing but business. Therefore, the man, the person, the whole rabbit hole, people wake up. But I sadly just don't see. I mean, there's 432 people in this stream. That's great. But, if that's any type of reflection of this information turning the tide, you know?
well, if this is a sale, because there could be other scenarios too. He could be actually trying to form a country under the United States, and this corporation they can do whatever they want with it. They maybe use it or not. The simplest thing would be a straight up sale, like right from whoever has the Hudson Bay Company is most likely Charles.
So, because isn't Trump going to meet Charles, or didn't he just meet him?
I'm not sure, but
That's what I heard.
that is the simplest, cleanest thing that would, they would take over that charter. They could form Canada into the Republic or not, or just keep it going the same way with a new owner.
Right.
It would get rid of the border.
Yeah.
Like there's
Which would benefit a lot of
a
Canadians.
lot of people. Like it's not gloom and doom. So the only way out of if it's a straight up sale, the only way out of this is to form a country. But like you said, people think we have a country now, and they're
You have been talking about this fucking thing forever, and it's crickets for the most part. I mean, not to discredit your work and the hard many hours you put into getting this message out, but I didn't hear any about this at the trucker convoy,
nope.
right?
And the trucker convoy is evidence. Everybody's going, hey, they just stomped all over the charter. Think about that.
Yeah.
What if the charter didn't exist? Did they stomp on anything? No, they didn't. That's how I looked at it. But if you think that that thing is there, then you have a cognitive bias. That's what I call it, and it's not the truth. You got to get to actually what's happening.
You
As
got to get to the bottom of
unsavory
it.
as it is,
Yep.
you've got to look at it and go, "Hey, this is what's happening, I think." And then
Yeah.
test it.
Yeah.
Don't go with your what you believe it is. Like that you have the chance of being wrong.
So when we were bullshitting the other day, we were kind of riffing on all these different scenarios and the way all this can go and stuff. Because I think you agreed with me that if this happens, it is one big step towards the New World Order of being fully realized, because you've seen the Club of Rome map where it's the 10 regions of North America. There's 10 regions around the world, and North America basically is one region. So it's a big step, but when you look at the clown show that the Canadian government is it any worse than the US? Like, are liberals in Canada any worse than Biden? Because the thing I get from people, because I'm not advocating for this. Again, I just like, I'm not, don't shoot the messenger. It's like, I just think it's most likely going to happen. And I try to look at upsides. So I'm not saying I want it,
No,
but you have to admit there would be some big benefits without having that border, especially when we feel the pain of like the tariffs that we're under right now. And so people get mad about that because then they'll say, well, yeah, it's Trump right now, but it could be the Democrats in 4 years. But it's like, the way I see it is, yeah, but you had Democrats for the last 4 years, but you still had your Second Amendment. That's anything better than we have in Canada.
absolutely. We have
The,
nothing
and
here.
we have nothing, because even if that Constitution, and you can debate the Constitution in the US too as being another dog and pony show that only was meant something for a select group of people, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, Americans are a lot more armed than Canadians in general.
And it's the Second Amendment that allows that, and they don't seem to be able to reverse that. So as much as they try. So, uh, you know, uh, I'll just share this. I'll share this one little document that will send you down the rabbit hole, and this is the document that the Queen came over from England and
You want to
signed.
share it?
Yeah, I can share it.
You should be able to. Your host.
Screen two.
Hit that shit. There you go.
So this is the proclamation of the Constitution Act that everybody thinks exists, 1982, which also includes the charter. You gotta, so it's three things. So here it is. This, all the whereas statements, like the preamble, why we're doing this, and blah 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 blah. And then here are the words that give this whole thing any force and effect. Now know you that we, which means her, by and with the advice of our Privy Council for Canada, do by this our proclamation, her, declare that the Constitution Act 1982 shall come into force on the seventh day of April in the year of our Lord 1982. That's that day. That's what that sentence is. Now there's a comma
Subject to 59.
in that sentence. Like if you took, it's this, there's a subject before this will come into force.
It's like a subject on the terms of your mortgage, right? You have to remove the subjects before the deal goes through. So and until subjects are removed, the deal doesn't
Go
close.
through. Exactly. So this, without getting into, detail on it, this is, like Curtis said, Quebec, it has to do with Quebec. And it has to do with Quebec signing off where people can have their kids taught in English. Quebec wasn't going to sign it back then. That was when René Lévesque was in power, and they have not signed it to this day, 40 years later.
So that begs a question. If this goes down, is Quebec out?
Everybody's out. Well, Quebec,
No,
no,
but
because
well, if
Quebec is
everybody's
part
out,
of.
then what do we have?
If it's a sale of the Hudson Bay Charter, and based on the terms of surrender to Victoria, because you got to add that in because they took more land, and she, with clever wording, said, "I'm taking all the purported authority and all the purported lands and all the stuff you weren't supposed to have, but I'm taking it." So if you add all that in, then Quebec is in. The only places that might not be in are um, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, those two, because those provinces pre-existed. And then there was Upper and Lower Canada, but those are not, don't exist anymore. It's Quebec and
What
Ontario.
what about BC with all the unceded territory?
BC was never a part of it, except she captured it because of the purported word. And then they formed British Columbia. And the timing of this is right when Billy Barker found gold in Quesnel. It's like, come on. So they formed the province. The same guy who was running the Hudson Bay, I think his last name was Douglas, the same governor of the Hudson Bay Company out here in BC was now the governor of the province. Business as usual, different names, but like, and this happened on a federal scale as well. When they dissolved the Hudson Bay Company, supposedly, a lot of the governors were just became governors of the now Dominion or country. It's all just sleight of hand, smoke and mirrors, calling it a dog when it's a dog.
It's so fascinating. I mean, it's fascinating, terrifying, and exciting at the same time. Because I could see, yeah, I don't like one step towards the New World Order. However, in my navigating the matrix, what I've started to learn to do is see the difference between a tide and a wave. So we're all in water and commerce, right? And you're out on the ocean in your little boat, and in order to navigate the waves that are coming at you, you got to turn your boat in the right direction, right? Because you got to take the wave straight on. But there's nothing you can do with just that little boat. Say you're a boat with oars. There's nothing you can do about the wind, and there's nothing you can do about the jet streams in the ocean. But you can navigate the waves. And so, in a way, that's how I'm just trying to look at this practically is, do I like it? And in a perfect world, I would rather just have proper Canadian sovereignty, and then we form the country that we should have formed in 1982 or post 1982 when all this was coming out, or even when Walter Cool,
1931.
31, yeah,
Yeah.
when Walter Cool, it was in, I believe it was 1972 or something like that, when Walter Cool wrote his letter to René Lévesque and said, "Hey, buddy, you guys are already sovereign.
Yeah.
You don't need to do any of this dog and pony show."
Nope.
But he didn't listen, because are these guys all in on it? Do they go, yeah, let's just kind of keep this thing going because it's a nice little racket for us, right?
And it kept going for they tried twice to actually get Quebec to sign off. They tried twice, Meech Lake Accord and Charlottetown Accord. They actually they thought they could do this. Like 1982, we'll sign this. Okay, as soon as we get this all settled up, we're going to actually negotiate. We're going to hammer this out, and Quebec's going to sign. Well, they didn't.
Yeah,
And so now, and then they just kind of let it go. And then it's, it became, it's become a big problem if to fix this at this point,
I know.
because there's a lot of problems. Like a lot of people have lost things, been locked up based on certain laws. And if those weren't proper, then how do we fix this? Canada is a mess. And this is just on this subject. We still have the native problems. Like
Big time.
stuff
So
was stolen and
who,
like on and on and
but
on.
so that's the thing that's crazy about it is because you could rationalize probably for the average. My theory on it is that the Canadians that will benefit will be the people that don't have a lot of debt tied to real estate, because real estate. I mean, who's going to buy a property in fucking Lower Mainland for 1.5 million for a fixer upper, when you can go right across the border and buy the same property for like a third of the cost, literally? So that's going to screw Canadian equity real estate potentially. I don't know for sure, but that's my theory. But for a lot of people who are just kind of like doing whatever, they'll just be like, well, I'll just go to the US now because there's so many more economic opportunities down there. There's so many more resources. But then even by staying here, you'll still benefit, because if we're under the US economy, we get access to their economy, right? Stuff's
Yep.
overall more affordable in the US because their purchasing power, right?
So there's it's not all down, like it's not all negative stuff. So, and that said, a lot of people could move here from there, and you can have your opinions on that, but things will expand. Like
I
to
wonder
like
if there could be a little bit of a period of a gravy train that this kind of brings in a way. And I wonder if the game Trump is playing is, I'm going to make these fuckers suffer for a little while so they really want the deal.
well, maybe, but here's the thing about what we said at the beginning is get in on what's actually happening. Don't try and pretend and wave a flag and say, I'm not buying stuff from Walmart. That's not going to change anything. We either form a country like the Statute of Westminster said we could, instead of the thing that Trudeau did, in '82, just try to, let's just patch up the B&A Act and pretend it was always here the whole time. Well, it wasn't. And
Yeah.
they even backdated the name all the way back to 1867. So 2 generations from now, you won't hear about the B&A Act. It will be erased from history. They'll make it look like this thing was continuously always here. You can see it
What do you,
happening.
yeah. Well, so what do you think if this kind of thing goes down? I mean, this is now we're taking shots in the dark. We're kind of guessing, but we've covered some pretty interesting historical points that illustrate how this could just happen really quickly. And perhaps all this political bullshit that's in the media. Like my mom, I went into my mom's house the other day. She's watching CBC, and it's like it's Orange Man bad season again. It's just fucking insane. They're just pumping it so hard. Do you think that Canada would be one state, or do you think that they would kind of redraw the lines?
I think they would want to redraw the lines. Maybe not right away, but yeah, it would be a pretty large state.
Be a pretty big state. Like doesn't make sense logistically.
No, because the laws and everything. There's like the way that Americans work is, there's state law and then there's federal law and there's county law and municipal law. So I think it would be a little bit much to have it something this vast as one state.
Yeah, and most Canadians, like 90% of Canadians, live within 100 miles of the U.S. border.
Exactly. Yeah. And that, and if you think about that, if this is coming, you know, would you want to sort of take advantage of the shift in equity? Like you said, Curtis, I can tell you, like, I don't know how many people know about this place called Point Roberts, but
Yeah,
it's 5 square miles that has that got cut off from the rest of the United States.
I
And
know
it's
it's so weird on a map because it's right in the lower mainland. And what a pain in the ass to live there. Have to go through Canada every time to go shopping, basically.
yeah. So it's, but that said, this is all, like pretty close to waterfront. There's quite a bit of waterfront there, but it's at a third or a quarter of the price of right next door. Like
I know
if
it's a
you go
joke.
down Avenue Zero, it's Canada on one side and like
And there's no
it's
fence.
not,
I've walked across there many times,
yeah,
just for shits and giggles. Like, hey, look, I'm walking into the U.S. Yeah,
yeah. So the property on this side of the road is like four times the amount of property on this side of the road.
literally, because
Yeah.
of the lower mainland. Yeah, doesn't make any sense.
So it depending on where things wash out, you could take advantage of that balancing because it's going to rebalance.
Yeah, yeah, and there
And
could
you
be some.
could avoid, like you said, if you got this property that's like 4 million, you know it's going to drop to one, get out now. That's based on the truth instead of standing there with a flag, a
Yeah,
little
the
flag with
world
the
as it
dot.
is, or the world as it ought to be. And to me,
Exactly.
it's the same dichotomy of, do you want justice or do you want equity? Do you want to be right or do you want to fucking win?
Yeah,
Right?
that's it.
We can rah, I'm not the man, I'm not the person, I'm the man. You played the name game for how many years and got railroaded,
Mhm.
right? And so it's as the world as it ought to be, or the world as it is. I mean, that's all we're saying. This is such a hot subject. Like I'm even looking in the comments. Like there's people that are really mad at me for talking about this stuff. Like you fucking traitor and all that. Traitor of what? There was never anything, anyways.
No.
Traitor of what? A flag?
I'm sorry if you read the proclamation which forms Canada apparently forms Canada as it is right now, the subject in the very words that forms it has not been satisfied. Period.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter whether you like it or not.
yeah,
And this is the point. We were duped. So don't get mad at Curtis. Don't get mad at me. I'm just telling you this is what's happened. I don't like it either, but this is what's happened. You got to
yeah,
deal with what is, not what you think it's supposed to be or
yeah.
what you think it should be or anything like that. This is what is.
And do you want to do you want to catch? So it's like I love the metaphors to Admiralty and maritime because they make a lot of sense. There's so much interesting when you watch water move. You know, I've had transcendent moments watching rivers move, and I fucking figure out things about the law. And there's so much about that. What is the water? You know, it's I believe it's our energy, it's our flow, it's our force, and they manipulate that. And there's universal principles that work with water in that it follows the path of least resistance and goes to the lowest point, you know? And we have to be like that because if you see these things moving, it's like, hey, there's a big wave coming. Do you want to catch the wave or do you want to get swallowed by the wave?
Exactly. You can stand there and talk about the dam. No, the dam could never break while the water's coming through it. And no, no, didn't break. You got to deal with what is. And this is what is. You can see it simply in this proclamation. That is the only thing that gives what we now think is Canada any validity. It's that document right there. It's like 8 paragraphs, 2 pages.
Yeah.
Actually, on one page on the signing. But that's it. There is nothing else. They couldn't pass this thing in 1982 in Parliament because the document they're passing forms Parliament. And the legislatures. Without the British North America Act, there was no Parliament. So they were just trying to patch this thing up. Like, let's stick some gum on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, it was the wrong thing to do. They should have just owned up. Okay, we got a problem. We were duped by some lady a couple of hundred years ago. We just now have discovered this, and a few people I think knew. Here's what we need to do. When you think about it, 1931, for full disclosure, So that, yeah, we can stand before God and say, yeah, we kind of stole their land, but we gave it back to them as long as, 1931. Y'all can form a country if you want.
And nobody did.
Nobody did.
Nobody did. And then we had those whistleblowers, Russell Rogers, later Walter Cool. There was some other ones in there along the way that were saying, hey, has anybody read the terms of service here? Because who reads the fucking terms of service? You
You just
sign up for a
click.
software program, it's got 200 pages of terms of service. You didn't read it, you signed it.
Exactly.
And that's how they get us every time, because either you signed it without reading it or you agreed tacitly because you never responded.
Exactly. And
They
if you're
gave
sta
you notice.
and if you're standing there with a little flag that you got at Canadian Tire, that's not doing anything.
No.
It really isn't. I'm not trying to belittle anybody, but that's not what's needed. If you don't want Orange Man or whatever it is coming in here and forming an actual government, then form one.
But Cal, what would you say to be devil's advocate? What would you say to, well, the US is a corporation under the City of London, and its commercial paper system goes all the way up there. There's a lot of holes in the Constitution and how it doesn't have an unratifying issue like Canada's does, but it is all commerce at the end of the day, and people aren't really winning in the system on constitutional challenges. They're winning more on UCC and commerce, right?
That's what I said. But the republic is not gone.
No, you're right, because there's still an all cap state, and there's still a title case state.
Yep.
That's a
So
fact.
exactly. So you don't know where this is all going, but
Well, that's the thing that's interesting is that what happens to Canada? Does Canada only become in DC because it's already on 501 Pennsylvania Avenue?
yeah,
And that's all it is. So is the Canada portion totally de facto and only de facto, where the US is de facto and de jure?
yep. There's a, there the republic is there. It's just dormant because nobody's really operating in it. But even Orange Man could change that. You don't know what's coming.
No, we don't.
So
What's, yeah,
this all could be, a much better thing than you actually think because because your TV is telling you, oh, this is bad.
exactly. The
Look at
thing, yeah.
this is, what we all love hockey. Yeah, see, as soon as you see an American, just start punching.
Sports ball. Fucking sports ball, man.
Forget the puck. Forget the puck. Yeah, forget the puck.
Jesus, fucking retarded.
As soon as you see that puck drop your gloves and let's go. That's what they planted in our
That's the
heads.
mentality. See, the thing that I actually like the most about this idea is Americans. I've always been an American at heart. Like the thing that it's where I got everything. My business and my everything I've achieved in my business is all thanks to Americans for the most part. Yeah, Canadians have supported me, but there's 10 times, 15 times the amount of people in the US. And so it's a bigger market. And I've always admired the American spirit. Like I had posters on my wall when I was a little kid, like Americana, like all that kind of shit. Is that my thinking is like trying to pick, okay, what's the upside in this? I go, well, all these really switched on American patriots that we hang out with, you and I have been traveling around the world for years. We hang out with these people. They're the vast majority of truthers I know are in the US,
Yep.
just by number, right?
Yep.
Maybe not by ratio, but by number. I go like, well, fuck, that's kind of cool. The thing I can't really understand where I think it could go, like I like to speculate on it. I've been thinking about this nonstop for months now. Is that what happens to our title? Because in Canada, we have legal and equitable title, right? Crown says they hold the legal title, which is the actual ownership, and then the property owner, like me on my property, equitable title. What happens to the title? What do you think about that?
I don't know because I know where your property is approximately. It's on the west side of the Rockies. The crown doesn't even have, it's not supposed to have
It's
anything.
not in there.
No.
In the definition of province in the Interpretations Act, it says includes none of it, Northwest Territories and fucking Yukon.
Yeah, I know. It's because they didn't do things properly back then. And then the Hudson Bay Company comes in, they get a vast amount of land, and what do they do? And they were told, don't go into British Columbia. What did they do? Go into British Columbia, set up a fort. And then the Americans started coming up because of the gold rush. There was more Americans in that region,
Yes.
and it was lawless because there was no European
BC
thing going.
especially. Did you ever in the 90s, did you ever watch that show Gold Trails and Ghost Towns?
No, but
Do you
oh,
remember that
I
show?
remember the show you're talking about.
It
Yeah.
was so cool. It was all about the stuff that was going on in the mining towns and the boom. And it was the fucking Wild West. And these towns, they were their own sort of autonomous zones, and the towns would compete with each other. And it's far out. But in a way, we're like, are we going back to that? Are we going back to some kind of Wild West? Or I don't know, man. It's
I don't know if I would want to live under that. I mean, I guess if you're
no, not really.
but
No.
they brought Begbie over to straighten that out, and he hung a few people, and then everybody kind of, whoa, okay, yeah, I guess we gotta, you know, wear clothes and not act so like there's no consequences to anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why he came here, and he hung a few people all the way up the province, and known as the hanging judge. I don't think he hung as many people as the lore says, but there was nobody being hung before that. So yeah, all of that, when you go to a hockey game here, a football game, they gotta give tribute, to because they weren't supposed to be here. There's no legal or lawful backing for anybody except an Indigenous person to live here and own and property. They didn't even care about owning property. It wasn't their thing.
No, it wasn't even in their dialect. And what are I mean, it's so sad what's happened to the indigenous cultures, but what are they now? I mean, in the pursuit of the information we've had, we've probably, I know you have and I have, met some pretty switched on, hereditary chiefs and stuff like that who fucking know this stuff. That's
Yeah.
some of the deepest stuff that I've learned is from some guys like that. But by and large, I mean, going to the reserves and stuff, pretty depressing around BC. I've been to many of them, and then like, what's left? I guess there's more left than what the Americans did to their natives, though.
They took a straight on, let's just wipe them out approach. Here it was a little more, and it's still going on, but it's a lot more insidious, I think,
It is.
with the residential schools and some some things, very unsavory things that happened and are still happening to a certain degree
Yeah.
to get rid of those people because from what I hear there is an agreement. I've never seen it, but there's a 60-40 split if you're a so-called Indian. So they turned them into status Indians, which means they're not Indians, and did all these things to try and get them out of that agreement.
Well, and then the only way, if you read the Indian Act, it's pretty brutal, but the only way they can get their benefits is if they live on the reserve,
Yeah.
right? And who wants to live on the reserve? It sucks. You can't sell property. It's communism essentially on the reserve. It's more communist than Canada, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, there are some reserves that are nice, but
Yeah, for sure. Few and far between.
yeah.
Like I'd like to see more of those, frankly, because in my tree planting days, I toured all over the province. I've worked in Ontario, BC, Alberta, and Quebec. Anytime I'd been to reserves, it was pretty rough.
Yeah.
But I've seen some in the US that are actually quite all right as far as how they managed. There's some success stories out there, but
Yeah. Not many.
not many. It's pretty bleak. And so, I mean, but you know what? Is the struggle of the natives that much different than the struggle of the common man who's been duped their entire life either, though? I don't know if it is.
It's not.
We're
You
all
just
fucking slaves in
abs
this system to some degree, right?
absolutely.
We could come together on that.
It's like, in the South there were the field slaves and there were the house slaves.
Right. Pick your poison.
Well, I mean, one is a little better that, it's seemingly a little more comfortable.
A house slave probably had it a little bit more comfortable, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you're still not free. You're indentured for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like I wonder in this whole thing if there's just if we can look at it for what it is without the emotions and then realize that there's some pretty big economic opportunities, there's some pretty big cultural opportunities to basically come together with other American patriots that share our values and views. I mean, would we get the
Or
benefits? I don't know.
or we can form a country.
Or we
But
could form a country.
don't think that there's a country and we need to protect it in some way because it's not here. Like it
But
doesn't.
isn't that the problem? Because all
Yes,
these people that are getting really upset about rah rah Canada, how dare you? It's like Canada, what?
there isn't one. It's a
They're never.
corporation. It's a complete corporation
So
operating
you're
for the
fighting for a
Hudson.
business that you're an employee in. You're a
Yeah.
Walmart employee fighting for a change in the board of directors.
Yep. That's
Good
it.
luck.
That's it. So, and just so you know, under the Hudson Bay Charter, they were allowed to have their own seal, and they were allowed to change their name, and they could change the seal. Put two and two together. All they did was change it from the Hudson Bay Company to Canada and change the seal.
Well, it's not much
You-
different than the Federal Reserve being federal,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
But this was right in the charter. They were allowed to do this. So you got to look at it. You got to read these documents, and you got to see, connect some dots, and you'll see that we've been duped for long before any of us were ever born.
Big time. I showed this stuff to my dad before he died, and he couldn't fucking believe it. I showed him the charter. I showed him the loophole, the Article 59, the endless loop, and I showed him Canada on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. I said, I fucking can't believe it. My dad tried to wake people up for his whole life, and he just couldn't articulate it enough, so he didn't win anybody over. But I showed it to him, and he was like, wow.
Yeah.
But how do people take this now, though? I mean, I've been trying to. I mean, I don't really. I'm not really trying to wake people up anymore. It's kind of like if you're not already awake, I don't know what to say anymore. You know.
No, they've already fired up the flock, and everybody's gonna go to Canadian Tire because that's Canadian, and get one of those little flags, and they're gonna stand here and wave it. That's what they're gonna do, and boo every time you hear the American national anthem. Well, what's gonna happen as you're doing that? They're going to be coming in because you're not actually dealing with it as it is.
You're dealing it as it ought to be,
Yes.
and nobody cares about what you fucking think about what it ought to be.
Nope.
That's the reality.
That's the reality.
Unfortunately, don't kill the messenger, folks. Don't kill me and Cal.
We
Don't get
didn't.
upset at us.
I didn't cause any of this. I just saw it, and I can
Yeah.
articulate it. And when I did articulate it in court, I and all the way up to Ottawa, and all the way up to the Queen herself. You know how many rebuttals I got?
Fuck all.
Not even you're an idiot. You know, silence.
Yeah. Going silent. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you can or say will be used against you before the law. So go silent. That's what they do, right? They go silent because, hey, they don't want to say anything, but they don't want to alert anybody to it either. So if they go silent, yeah, you're right, but nobody cares.
Kind of, yeah. I mean that's
Well,
their
like nobody in authority cares. I mean, we care because I've seen your letters. I've seen this stuff. You send notice to these guys. You know, remember when Steve had the Minister of Finance admit that Canadian Tire dollars could be accepted for tax payments.
yeah, and their answer to what money was, well, look at the Currency Act. A dollar is 100 pennies. 100 pennies is a dollar. But what's a dollar? What's 100 pennies? What's a penny? Well, 100 of them, and you got a dollar. You're like, that's just just a
It's
big
circular
circle.
logic. Yeah, yeah. And so it all means nothing. It's all like that's the thing on the esoteric side that's always kind of bothered me is that they just want you chasing your tail.
Yeah.
And as long as you're chasing your tail, and that's where I think we're at now with AI, especially the way they can micromanage groups of people is like, as long as you're doing this, they don't care if you're on the right side or the left side. As long as you're doing this or you're doing this, right? Like swipe, 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 swipe. You're hitting the slot machine.
Or this, drop the gloves and let's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's fucking have a fight over nothing.
over a puck dropping.
Yeah, yeah. So hey, this has been fantastic. Let's just take a couple. There's a one super chat in here. Might as well take it. If anybody wants to super chat us, they can do that, and then we're gonna wrap this stream up. But this is an interesting question, Cal, and I don't know if you've ever found an answer to this one. Is there a country that's not a corporation?
Haven't found one yet. We always find that they're pretty much are. There's a couple of little ones. There's one, a guy opened up, I think it's called
Oh, Lieberland?
Lieberland. I met him
Yeah,
in,
up by Serbia.
yeah, I met him in Texas, and he's got it up and running. So yeah, there's Lieberland. That's one that is not. Um, I don't know of many others because we always find it.
And so but then that begs the question is it all bad to go into commerce if that's the way it's always been done?
If you go into commerce and you learn it, you can prevail in there because it's has self-balancing, self-correcting principles. But if
And that's
one
equity.
party
That's part of what equity is. It's those principles, right?
in my opinion, equity is actually law merchant. They're just
Yes.
yeah. So
It's the foundation of law merchant.
I would say law merchant is the thing, and now they just called something else equity. But anyway, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
which came first. But if you can learn it to a certain degree, it's like a shotgun clause, in a
In a mergers and acquisitions deal.
exactly. So do you want to take that chance and try and buy the other guy out, or because it can backfire on you? Well,
Yeah.
law merchant, it has those built in almost everywhere. So if you take advantage of somebody else, it's going to double down on you. So you just never did that to another merchant. There was the honor amongst thieves. What they
Right.
did is turned us all into merchants with the birth certificate and then
Yeah.
the SIN number, but didn't teach us how to actually operate as merchants.
Well, because the thing is, like, when you go down into what is it, the matrix, and what are we in it? Our birth certificates essentially are a form of security, right? You're bonded into this thing, and there's a monetary value, and that's how they borrow money. Is they say, "Hey, look, I got all these suckers that are going to work and pay the interest. What will you loan me today?" Right? That's the asset, your ass, your birth certificate, right?
Yep.
They've essentially got us in this sort of agent to a trustee position, right? To do commerce. You just have this fiduciary duty to do all the things you're supposed to do. You sign up for the SIN number, there's fiduciary duties, right? You signed up, your mom signed up for the birth certificate, there's fiduciary duties. You signed up for whatever, you got a T4 general for whatever it is. Could we not hypothetically, if we wanted to change the system but use the framework, could we not just essentially appoint all trustees to beneficiaries?
Well, I think we're all beneficiaries anyway, and there's a trustee
But as a birthright, but they've got us mixed into a trustee position where we're having to
well,
do all this bullshit.
well, kind of. It's almost like they put the debts on you, on your person, so that they can access the trust on your behalf because there's a debt
Yes.
incurred. So it's kind
And
of like
that's where
that.
they've put another, there's got to be another trustee in there. Because it's like when you zoom in on your check and it says that you're an agent, right, to sign. There needs to be a signing agent. So,
Your agent for your person, though. So like your game piece, that capitalized name. So going in there and yelling about capitalized name doesn't work because there's a body yelling about it, and the judges just look at you. Well, you're standing right here in front of me. Sorry.
There's a body yelling.
And that's just how they roll, right? So you can be
Yeah,
totally right about it, and they won't even care that you're right, but you're standing here. So you have to
yeah,
do things differently if you want to go down those roads. And there are,
big
things you
time.
can do, but um, you run the risk of having warrants and all that stuff. So that, it's not tiptoe through the roses or through the tulips. So, but but what was the point of this?
Well, just we were talking about the trustee position, the
Yeah,
agent.
yeah. So if you understand some law merchant, just basic principles of how a bill of exchange works and how your signature works and how you are liable on these things, and then and then have a little bit of trust stuff. You don't have to go down the road of the trust, but you have to understand how basic trust works and know that you have a trust, and you can maneuver pretty good in a lot of commercial endeavors.
I've said for the last, I don't know, maybe 4 years since I've really started doing this stuff in the private is that I can solve 95% of my problems in the matrix
Yeah,
as
you
the
can.
person. I
You
fucking
can.
go right in.
Yep.
I'm the agent. Let's go.
Yep. It's like chess and checkers, and we all think it's checkers because it's got square, black and red squares, and they're playing chess, and we go, "Hey, you can't do
That's
that.
a great, I never heard you say
I'm
that
going to
analogy.
wave my checker flag, and you need to play checkers." Well, I'm playing chess. Boom, boom, boom. Well, all you got to do is learn how to play chess. Okay, if you're going to cheat and play chess rules in a checkers game, well, then I'm going to learn chess. Boom, boom. See, it's that kind of thinking. Don't try and you can't do that. That's not a move in checkers. So what? I'm
Again, yeah, trying to be right versus trying to win.
yeah.
Justice versus equity. It's amazing. So hey, tell everybody, well, before we wrap this up, what's going on with the Empower movement? Where are you guys at with the notices of liability? Because during the COVID era, you guys made some pretty significant strides. You have a global organization, really, people all over the world that have
Did you say
said,
global?
not global
Look,
homo.
look at all the hate mail you're getting now because you
Oh
got
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. Globe. Oh shit. Yeah, you're right. Oh my God. Yeah. Don't make a claim on on what the Earth is. But
no.
what's going? You guys do have. You're all
Well,
over internationally.
yeah,
You
and
basically started noticing what we did in 2014 with the notice of liability. Talk about where that's at now and what you guys are doing now.
well, we have four agendas now because we started with smart meters. Now we do vaccines, mandatory vaccines, 5G, which is a weapon, like straight up, and the spraying in the air.
In chemtrails.
Yeah, yeah. So we've got those four agendas, and we're doing them in as many countries as we can. And with all of the bills of exchange that are created, and bills of exchange, according to the Financial Administration Act in Canada, if you look up the definition of money in the very first, like in the definition section, you'll see it says negotiable instruments, and then the very next definition is negotiable instruments. And you'll see bill of exchange. So a bill of exchange is money in their system.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter whether you like that or not, because I don't like it, but I know that's what it is. So we've created worldwide $25 billion in bills of exchange so far.
So who are you sending notice to for the chemtrails?
A few pilots, far and I know. I don't really know all the respondents on that one. We've only got that document for Canada. I think the U.S.
Because I showed you the nothing burger they sent me, right?
Well, you told me
500 pages of nothing
of
burger.
redaction. Yeah,
But also just front loading with the Alberta hail suppression program.
yeah,
Like, this is all we're doing.
yeah. Well, they're not.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so we dug all that up, but yeah, some of the respondents are difficult to find because it's very clandestine, but
Yeah.
some of them are
Yeah.
we can find. So and some of the manufacturers of the actual spray, etc., because they are so proud of that they've putting this stuff out. So,
Yeah. Yeah. One
but
more
yeah,
super.
we've had numerous people step down all worldwide. We've had three premiers in Australia and a former prime minister there. We have numerous health ministers all across the world, and we got a royal, um, the Queen of Denmark.
On notice.
No, she quit.
Do you think because you sent in a pile of notices to her and that made her sweat it
There was,
out?
yeah, there was 14. She got 14 notices from the Denmark group, and the thing about it is when you talk to the Danish people, because she's been there since um, for 50 something years. Like she's always like most people, she was already the queen, just like Elizabeth for us, right? She was always our queen.
I wonder if she's a
Well,
tranny.
I don't want to go there, but
Yeah,
you can judge for
you're
yourself.
right.
But anyway, regardless of that, what was shocking about this is her mantra was, "I will never abdicate the throne. I will stay here till death." It was her thing. And then she gives an address on New Year's Eve. So two New Year's Eve ago, she goes, yeah, son, blah, 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 blah. We're gonna have a great year. And by the way, I'm out here in 2 weeks. And they were all like, did you just say you quit? Like,
That's amazing. But that's the power of commerce, man. I mean, we saw it in 2014. We sent that CEO letters. He was done the next day.
yeah.
So it is. So somebody here says in the super chats, okay, well, before I do that, I'll do that one before we go. But where do people go to get involved with InPower? And if they want to start sending notices to these fucking people that are doing all this terrible, terrible shit to us?
Inpowermovement.org. So it's inpowermovement.org.
Right on.
Yeah.
Somebody says here, I'll do this last one and then we'll close it up. But who would you recommend looking into when it comes to law in the U.S.? Where was the first place you went? Was it Winston Shrout?
For commerce,
For
yes.
commerce, solutions in commerce. I remember
Yeah,
those. I
but
had the
for
tapes.
law, I was more doing Canadian law, but
Yeah.
yeah. But commerce, yeah, it was Winston Shrout in Kelowna actually, and I went to
20, was it 2007 or something
I
like
think
that?
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when I came back from that, again, throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks was my modus operandi, and this was just the next. Well, let's just see if this works, right? Because
Yeah.
I was desperate to get out of the situation I was in. I was really oppressed by this whole thing. It was not
Yep.
looking like my life was going to be under this thing and going to court every month. And so the first thing we do on court cases that I've already had running, first commercial move I make, the judge runs off the bench. I went,
Yeah.
oh,
That
okay.
stuck.
Well, that's not what I've ever seen before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just continued from there, all this strange behavior from judges to the point where Wally Opal had to go on TV and, yeah, we got to up the bonds for our hardworking judges. I'm like, yeah, because I'm out bonding you. I'm out commercializing you. I'm out moneying you because you guys
Yeah.
gave me this trust and I now know how to access it, not
Yeah.
for my own benefit, but I've got a trustee that's not you.
Yeah. And that
And
makes
it,
them
and
freak
it
out.
just, the judges wanted to have nothing to do with it.
Yeah. What do you think's going on with? Do you see that video that went kind of viral of that guy saying that Mark Carney's here to seal the deal? That's why he's
I
here.
did, I did, but I didn't think that was correct.
Well, I didn't. He didn't present any evidence that that was the case. He said some good things about wills and power of attorney and stuff like that, which is all true. But he made a claim at the beginning. I find these videos kind of sneaky. Hey, it's like,
They are because I think it's a little bit misleading. But the words are in there, but you got to hear what he's saying. So it's like when he's talking about the testator, and Canada's a testator. The testator is the one who died and left a will and testament. So are you telling me Canada was alive and then and now it's dead and it left a will and testament? Because otherwise, that word is not Canada. Like you
Yeah.
can't put you it, you're really trying to jam something a square peg into a round hole, and
Yeah.
it kind of fits, but it doesn't really.
Well, I find the thing that and I don't know about this guy who made that video. I'd never seen him before. I don't know anything about him. I find, because I went down the rabbit hole for so long, you get misled by a lot of things, is that there's ways you could, a real easy way to manipulate somebody to think that you have credibility. What you're saying is make a claim and then kind of steamroll into something else where you can just throw a bunch of random factoids out there. And then people go, oh yeah, I heard some facts, therefore it's all true. But he just kind of did a machine gun assault of a bunch of things and then talked about a few things that have no significance to the claim you made. And then people go, oh yeah, this is legit. I can't tell you how many people sent me that video. Unbelievable.
I
And I'm
know,
like, I
but
noticed it right at the beginning. I was like, he's not really giving evidence for anything.
no, it's the thing you're describing is the testator. He used the word a few times, so he's not like hiding it. But Canada was never alive. It's not and doesn't have a will and testament. So that's what
What's he
the
talking
testator
about? Yeah,
look up the word testator. It'll tell you what it is. Like Canada's not that. So
no,
everything else doesn't matter because that's the premise of it.
that's right. Yeah,
So now Carney coming over and being a part of this could be, but I would say it's more on either a straight up sale, and he's coming to figure out, okay, what are the assets? What are we gonna, what are we gonna charge for this thing? What have we got?
yeah. Help to broker the deal.
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
he's here because of some kind of bankruptcy and acting as a trustee, but he's not acting in probate. There's no dead body. There's
yeah.
no
That's right. Where's the evidence of probate? That's what that he didn't. He made that claim, and then it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense.
no, it doesn't because that you have to have a dead person and an number one, you have to have a dead person, and number two, there has to be a valid will and testament. Because if there's no valid will and testament, not
There's
the
no
whole thing,
probate.
yeah, the whole thing changes, right? So
Yeah, yeah. Doesn't make sense.
no,
Well, Cal, this has been always a pleasure, and you're going to be down at Confluence in Bandera, Texas,
yeah,
coming up. Is that May?
May, yep, yep, first week of May.
So if any of you guys, I wish I could be there this year. Can't make it, but it was a banger of an event. High level, awesome, high vibes. You're gonna have such a good time,
Yeah,
and I'd encourage anybody who's listening who wants to go down to Texas, meet Cal or any of the other cool people that are gonna be down there. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
yeah, there's a lot of speakers. It's one of the bigger ones I've ever seen. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's a great location too. I was down there for the eclipse, and that was a
oh
fucking trip, man.
wow,
Being at that level of the close to the equator and to see that eclipse go right there, it was just, I don't want to open a flat earth can of worms, but I really felt like the sun was closer than it's ever felt to me before. I was just, whoa, this is crazy, but
yeah,
interesting stuff.
right on.
All right, brother. So
All
everybody
right,
check out empowermovement.org for
yeah,
Cal, and thanks again, brother.
thank you. I hope to get up there sometime. I want to see Steve. Actually I need to go skiing. I have not skied since before COVID. Like that kind
Oh,
of
dude,
yeah.
we got to go skiing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Steve, yeah, that would be fun. We'll go like backcountry or cross country. Steve's a cross country skier, so
Yep.
I know some good
Skater,
spots.
actually, he skates, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, brother. Have a great
All right,
night.
man. All
Take
right, peace.
care.